Hi, welcome to the Leighton Inclusion Interview Show, which is about recognizing the difference between kindness and cruelty. And we'll be talking probably more about kindness because I've got a special guest for the show, Joe Deninzon. Hi, Joe. How are
Hi,
you?
Anne.
Hey,
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. We're very good friends. We've been friends
No,
and professional associates for years.
we go back a ways. Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but my computer doesn't seem to be allowing me to record this. But it says you're recording. I don't know if it allows two people to record at the same time.
Oh, I don't. No, both can record at the same time, but we are. I'm definitely recording, and I'm recording on the cloud, so my fingers are crossed that
All
it'll
right.
also.
Oh, we'll do it again if we have to. That's okay. Oh, here we go. I found the button.
Oh, press it, baby. Should
Well,
I
it's
take it from?
it says request permission. You have to grant me
Oh,
permission.
allow. I see.
Okay.
Okay,
Granted. Okay, here we go.
I'm not going to edit this out.
Yeah, it's keeping it real.
Yeah, totally, totally,
Here we go.
absolutely.
Rock
Uh,
and roll.
yeah, totally. Um, I will say that we've both stuck by each other, and I'm very grateful for that. And I think most people know Joe now as Kansas's new member, as the violinist and guitarist and a backup vocalist, but he also leads Joe Deninzon and Stratospheerius, and they've got a new album, Impostor, coming out on Trey Gunn's 7D Media October 11th, 2024. Tony Levin is on the label. Michael Shrieve is on the label. And Joe's got a resume that ranges from playing shows that include playing shows with Tony Levin, like sharing bills, right? Joe Deninzon Stratospheerius, but also as a member in orchestras for Bruce Springsteen, The Who, 50 Cent, Renaissance, where he served as the concertmaster for his orchestra. His credits go on and on, include TV theme songs and sessions and Super Bowl commercials, and he got all this work himself. I think the best place to check Joe out would be Joe D Violin.com. That's the easiest call letter for you.
Yeah, that's kind of the central hub for everything else. You can link to all my socials through there and Stratospheerius stuff through there and everything. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Cool. Imposter is your album, and it's to me when I hear it, and I've been listening obviously a lot to it because I'm doing publicity for it. It's about mental health and observations that you've had, as well as making connections with people. Is that a good definition of it?
Very much so. I think it's funny. I just write whatever I'm feeling at the moment, whatever comes to my head, and then when I look back on it, I'm like, wow, there's a certain underlying theme here of different mental conditions and different mental hurdles we set up for ourselves that we have to overcome. So, like the title track deals with imposter syndrome, but it goes deeper than that. I can get into that later. And then,
Sure.
um, you know, um, Outrage Olympics is kind of about paranoia, fear of being canceled, and fear of being ostracized. And there, each song has um, Storm Surge is about inner turmoil and what we were all feeling with the world being turned upside down during the pandemic and with the fight for racial justice that was going on at that time. And but it takes it more into the inner world, what we were all experiencing, anxiety and uncertainty about the future that we were all experiencing.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so there is a thread, and the closing track, "Chasing the Dragon," is kind of a midlife crisis song about getting older as a musician and dealing with, asking, did I realize my childhood dreams and do I measure up? Am I a failure? And all these things that a lot of people, a lot of my friends go through. And I thought it would be, a cool, poignant thing to write about.
Yeah, I think we all deal with this. Like, would Imposter and Chasing the Dragon be coming from similar places in certain ways? Because there is some self doubt.
Maybe, but Chasing the Dragon is kind of a mini rock opera. But Imposter is, well, I'll backtrack. Imposter, the impetus of it was I was speaking with a good friend of mine who's a great violinist and songwriter, very successful, who I think the world of. and she told me that she always feels like an imposter in her life, and I'm like, I can't believe it. You're like one of the coolest people I know. How is that
Right.
possible? So I thought of that, and that kind of got me, you know, started writing the song. And then I also, there was a quote. I don't have it memorized, but I talk about it in the liner notes. That all the wrong people have way too much confidence. The people running the world, most of them have way too much confidence, and the people that should be running the world don't have enough.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's also some lyrics about kind of a world leader who knows he's an imposter and owns it and doesn't care, you know. So there's that cynical side of it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there's it's a few different angles of being an imposter.
There's sort of like a thoroughness that someone who does the work, whether you're a leader or a follower that is working, let's say in an assembly line, there's sort of like, well, it is a thoroughness where you have to check yourself. I know there are certain places where I walk that when I'm going up and down the stairs, I have to be conscious of each step. That's a parallel to for allowing yourself not to feel like an imposter, that you're thinking about what you're doing.
That you're fully present, fully conscious in the moment, and knowing that you're doing the absolute best that you can.
Yeah,
I think that's a very good way of dealing it, self-acceptance, and not feeling that you don't deserve to be doing something, you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, did it
So
take a while for you to, oh, I get it, or do did you get that when you were doing music lessons and concentrating on the notes and going through the hell of learning a symphony or something like
I mean,
that?
did I experience imposter syndrome?
More so being fully present and learning so that you wouldn't experience imposter syndrome.
I think it's funny. I just I forget what I know or how much experience I've had, and I feel those feelings sometimes when I'm about to teach a class or do a master class, or because I've done a lot of teaching in my life,
Yeah,
travel, and especially if it's a hip crowd, if it's at a college full of hipsters, you know, and I'm like, well, who am I? Well, they're gonna stump me. They're gonna laugh at me. I'm just
yeah,
pretending, you know, blah blah blah. And then when I get into it and I start just like doing it, I'm like, wow, you know, I've been through a lot of stuff and I have a lot to share with people and I have some valuable information I can share. And it's also accepting that you don't know everything and you don't have all the answers and you could learn as much from the people you're teaching and speaking to as they can learn from you. So coming to it from a place of honesty, I think, is a healthy approach. Not thinking, oh, I have to pretend I'm the coolest, smartest guy in the world, and they better not find out that I'm not. You know, if you approach it from a place of honesty,
yeah.
it's a
Honesty
healthier
is
way.
great.
Yeah, whether you're teaching or public speaking or performing or you know, you
Yeah,
you're sharing your experiences and you're being open to other people enriching you with their experiences, you know.
y- yeah. I got to check out this source. I made a mistake with this information, and or this article that I reposted was wrong. Uh, oh well.
Yeah, it's okay, you can admit you're wrong, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's self exploration, and that's really important. I think
The
there.
other thing, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. No, what's the other thing?
Well, it's funny because this is an interesting topic. I can go off on a tangent.
Me too.
um, Being an improviser is very healthy for your brain. Studying jazz as opposed to having a classical musical education. In classical music, it's a very rigid black and white, right or wrong approach. You're either playing all the notes on the page with all the nuances, or you're playing it wrong. You know,
Right.
in an improvisational setting in the jazz world, you can screw up the note, play the wrong chord, play the wrong riff, and bounce back from it and cover your tracks, and it can lead into a new creative space. So there's no wrong.
Yeah.
It,
No,
it,
it's not.
so it's kind of translates to a lot of other things in life. It's a different part. It's working a different part of your brain. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten song lyrics wrong, which gave me ideas for new poems. So,
Exactly. You have to
yeah.
allow accidents to happen and welcome them,
Do you have you mentioned teaching, and that's so important. I want to go into a tangent there. Is there a community with your fellow teachers? One of the places you teach at is New Jersey City University. Is that the right name of the college?
Yeah, I'm a adjunct faculty member for the New Jersey City University Multi-Styles Strings program, which was founded by my friend Martha Mook in 2020. It started virtually because, during the pandemic. And it's a great program for string players who want to have careers outside of classical music and, be it rock, jazz, bluegrass, hip hop, anything, Um, and it's really fun. I'm very busy now, but I still take on students when I can through the program, and I usually teach remote
Oh, that's cool.
because I'm on the
Sometimes,
road a lot.
but you've also I met two of your students. They came, at least two of your students came to your show, maybe more. And I think one of them or both of them ended up in Joe Jackson's band. Is that right? Just out of college.
Lourdes and Nacho, they're a couple actually, boyfriend and girlfriend from Spain, and Lourdes is a viola player. She's touring with Joe Jackson right now, and not Nacho. Nacho is doing a different gig. They're both
Oh,
very busy, successful musicians. But my other friend and former student Susan Aquila is touring on violin with Joe Jackson right now.
girl power.
Yeah,
Oh.
and that's an amazing band, by the way.
There's a
That whole-
fellowship with you and those students, if you will, or a community. What's the right word?
There's an interesting uh, like familial vibe within the electric string world. The improvising, non-classical, alternative styles, whatever you want to call it, string community, but especially like the community of electric violin geeks, like me and my friends, and it's a real tight knit kind of thing, and people are competing with each other, but also helping each other out, and it's grown exponentially in the last decade, just through a lot of educational opportunities, and it's a very interesting world, you know. So
Like sending the elevator back down, but we don't know who the first one that sent the elevator down was.
it's funny, like it started in the '70s with Jean-Luc Ponty and Jerry Goodman and those guys, and then in the '80s, Mark Wood took the mantle and you know became like the first hairband shredding electric violinist that started making his own violins, and I play his seven-string violins. And there was Tracy Silverman and Michael Urbaniak and Didier Lockwood and Martha Mook, and all these great players emerged. And then when camps in the '90s, when Mark O'Connor started his string camp, and Julie Lyland Lieberman, and then in the 2000s when Mark Wood started his string camp, and I started teaching there, we saw a whole generation of young kids come up who are amazing players and creative artists, and it's just huge night and day difference from what it was 20 years ago. There's so many great players right now. It's scary, you know.
It's like in the
Yeah.
yeah, it's like in sports where the athletes that were coming up now seem superhuman or something like that.
Yeah, there's just people with a wider skill set that really get it and are able to work in a variety of musical settings and have just a great vibe and attitude, and you know um and also there's more schools to get degrees in electric strings now. NJCU, where I teach, Berkeley, University of Champaign-Urbana in Illinois. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's more and more places. Anyway,
How
um,
much of teaching is helping students overcome mental challenges?
a lot of it, I would say at least 50% of it. And it's funny because when I'm in a situation where I'm teaching players who are coming from a strictly classical background, it's especially challenging because they're super self-judgmental and so afraid of making a mistake or sounding bad, and not realizing that you have to allow yourself to sound bad and make mistakes in order to get better, you know.
That's like what the imposter syndrome
So
and
it's a mental hurdle that you have to, like, if you're a baby crying or a little toddler singing, you don't care what people think of you. You're just singing from the heart. And
right.
we get overeducated as adults, as musicians, and the goal is to get back to being that kid and not and singing from the heart and playing from the heart and not worrying about what people think of you.
Yeah.
And that's difficult, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to head trips that I've gone through as a teenager in high school, as well as some of the folks that I've had the pleasure or frustration, if you will, to work with through the years, where suddenly you're questioning yourself because they want to play head trips with you. Let's see you dance, girl, and you'll start dancing. They'll laugh at you.
Yeah,
Where
and
did
then
that come
you'll
from?
never want to dance again. That'll traumatize you.
Yeah,
You'll be hearing their voices for years to come whenever you try to dance. So
right.
you have to kick that. You have to overcome that. And I took me years, to I've had my share of bullying growing up,
I'm in
Um,
shock about that.
oh yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, you're the guy from Cleveland or
I
something.
was I wasn't my junior high years were miserable, and my early high school years, I was an awkward kid. And yeah, I had some bad experiences, but then it got better, gradually better, as people started to respect me for my musical skills, and you know,
That helped with parenting and teaching. Full circle, I bet.
absolutely, yeah. I try to um, I try to tell my kids not to take things personally that's, some dumb kid will say to them. And I tell them 20 years, 10, 20 years from now, none of this will matter at all. Right now, it's your whole world, but
Right.
just trust me. You're
Yeah.
going to not think about this in 10 years.
It's hard for them also. I would say it's hard for anybody, grown-ups, to find a tribe that like going back to the whole string community and the fellowship that exists there. It's sometimes hard for some kids and grown-ups to find the folks that would be supportive. Who are your supportive folks, and how are you supportive to people?
I have, I'm blessed with a really supportive family.
Hmm.
My kids are my biggest fans, and my wife. And yeah, they lift me up and inspire me. My parents, I have a good support system, and I have a huge circle of friends, of good friends that I could count on, and I could talk to. You
That,
among them, you know. So I wake up and count my blessings every day,
that's cool.
And
And
there are, not everybody has their share of schmucks or people they have fallings out with that you're just not going to win over. We all have those.
yes,
And that's just part of life. You're not supposed to be liked by everybody. That's okay. Don't try
that,
to be, you know, that's
that
okay. Be yourself. There's some people that I don't that I try to keep my distance from, and that's cool. I try to surround myself with positive energy,
yeah.
people
And
that
that's what you just said is a good way of being supportive to someone else, letting them know, hey, it's them, not you. They're the
yeah,
weird ones.
absolutely.
Yeah. I
I,
want to. Hmm.
I think my son is dealing with that right now because he's a great kid and he tries to please everybody and he's really good with his friends. And there's those people that pick up on that, and they try to over criticize you, and he takes the criticism so personally. And I tell him, you know, don't bend over backwards for this particular person. They're messing with you, and it's no
Yeah,
reflection on you. Learn to love yourself. That's key.
I hear you.
Anyway,
Yeah, you know what? You deal with neighborhood bullying, cognitive dissonance, the song on Impostor, dissonance.
That's a specific song. It's actually about racism being taught. Um, it well, the story behind that song is we're Jewish and we had a Palestinian neighbor across the street who we always got along with, and my son was playing with his son when they were like 8, and they were just kids playing innocently. And then at one point, he asked Max what religion he was. Max said he was Jewish, and the kid said you're going to hell and didn't want to play with him anymore.
Wow.
And the message of the song is we're all born a clean slate, and we all just want to get along and play with each other. It's the dogma that instilled by our parents, the weight of hundreds of years of history and hatred that we have to burden as kids that destroys everything. That's kind of the message of that song.
I want to segue into some TV entertainment history.
Okay.
So, the and last time we did a podcast, I spoke about the show. I'm kind of winding it down. It's
Who is that behind you? Is that Davy Crockett?
close. That's Fess Parker, who played Davy Crockett, and then he played Daniel Boone.
Oh, okay. I was close.
Yeah, and
That's so cool.
I've been watching this show, and it deals with all kinds of different communities in colonial America getting together and people deliberately messing with Boonesboro, Kentucky, and but there's also celebration in Boonesboro, and I've been watching. I'm now finally on season 6. I've been
Mm.
watching it since April-ish. And before that, by the way, I was watching Supernatural, the whole show. Hi, Kansas.
Hey.
So, yeah. And actually, the stars from both Daniel Boone and Supernatural are all Texans. So, small world. Okay. A small world in a big state. Okay.
Mm.
So, Daniel Boone, but one of the cool things about it is they celebrate as well. And the shows Colonial America, they would have community dances and get together. Every time they do a community get together, somebody's just playing fiddle, just pure violin. Do you know anything about violin history? I know you do, because
Of
you're over
course. Well, Daniel Boone, what what years did he live?
Revolutionary War through early 1800s.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the history of the fiddle. I mean it's a instrument you could just grab with you and carry to a campfire and just jam. The fiddle and the guitar, they're the folk instruments. They're the instruments that people play on their back porch and learn folk songs by ear and teach to their children and they teach to their children. And there's a long fiddling tradition in America that has its roots in Ireland and England and Scotland, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
cool.
that's
Yeah, it's a great show. And then it became this. Those are
yeah. Well, it's funny.
your vipers.
Those are my vipers,
Yes, I wish
babies.
you would
Yeah,
say
Th-
your
those,
baby. Those are
those
my
are my
baby.
7-string fretted vipers. It's funny because history has come full circle because the history of the violin, um, it used to be in the before the 18th century, there was 6-string, five and six, seven, 8-string violins, and at some point during the development of orchestral music, they realized that a smaller violin, a 4-string violin, would carry better in a hall, and somehow it developed into having a 4-string violin, a 4-string viola, 4-string cello, and
Baby.
now because um, with the advent of amplification and um, different music being kind of music being written, there's extended range instruments again, and it's becoming the norm. You know, it's not as much of a shock to see a 5, 6, and 7 string violin.
And those are seven
We've come
string.
full, those are 7 string, yeah. So we've come full circle in the development of bowed string instruments.
Have the other violinists in Kansas played seven string violins
No,
at
but I
any point?
think I think well, David Ragsdale played a 5 string violin,
Okay.
my predecessor, but no one has played a 6 or a 7 string violin in Kansas.
Hey,
And when I joined, I really wanted to sell them on the idea because I could play the low guitar parts and double them and get a fatter sound on the low strings rather than just playing it with a clean sound on the higher strings. And they dug it, so they were open to the
cool,
idea. Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. Do you, I want to go back to your album, Joe Deninzon and Stratospheerius Impostor, and there's a great song on it, and I hear it's the first video of the album, Outrage Olympics.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So that's me raging against cancel culture. It's raging against censorship and the fact that so many people are afraid to say what's on their minds or in their hearts for fear of being canceled and having their lives ruined. And I guess sometimes there are times when you have to be sensitive, and there are times when something gets misconstrued and there's no going back because the court of public opinion is a very powerful thing. So that's kind of the theme of the song.
Yeah, it seems like sometimes, and this is where I find a oneness because we've deliberately excluded people if they speak them. Oh, I got someone's pronouns wrong, or I support this country but not that country. Um, and history is what it is, or something like that. So I can
Yeah,
relate to the song.
yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with what the song is saying, um, and I haven't heard any songs express this message. So it'll be interesting what kind of a reaction I get. And it's a neutral song. It's not. It doesn't try to be on one side of the political spectrum or the other. I leave that to people's interpretation.
Yeah, and I think that can be anything in the community. Do you want to share the lyrics?
Yeah. You want me to read the lyrics?
Yeah,
Okay. I
you
think
like a
I have them
poet.
memorized because I've sung it a few million times. Okay. Thought police apply the pressure, scan your past for small transgressions. Scared to death, we walk on eggshells, guilty till we're proven innocent. So, welcome to this brave new world. Now, learn the new linguistics. If you're not woke, you'll never win the outrage Olympics. Righteous pricks, they're so damn sensitive. Pledge allegiance to their narrative. Come and join the Inquisition. Bow down to the new religion. So, shut your mouth or lose your job. The walls are always listening. Just dodged the bullet one more day in the outrage Olympics. The trigger happy cancel cult convicts you with no witness. They're cheering as they watch you burn in the outrage Olympics.
And that's a deadly last verse. They're cheering as they watch you. Good riddance, man. Yeah, totally.
It
That
might
is,
piss off a lot of people, which is I love that. So
yeah.
start the conversation. You know.
Conversation is a good solution.
Yeah,
For it.
we never we don't talk to each other anymore. We just yell at each other. We don't listen.
Yeah, I've had that conversation with a few folks. We should talk with each other.
I like to stay friends on Facebook with people I completely disagree with. I like to know what they're thinking, you know.
Yeah, and plus we get our own. Uh, as artists, we'll get negative feedback, so we can learn from the negative feedback and go, "Well, I disagree or I agree. Interesting. Where would that come from? And uh, what kind of solutions will it offer me to better my work or improve what I'm doing?" Things like that. Give me advice on how you've dealt with that when folks have pulled that kind of. Oh, let's cancel. I guess I bet you've never been canceled. Or
Not that I know of. Not yet. I don't know. Hopefully, I won't be. But uh, no. But I saw an interesting documentary where about people that have been unfairly canceled. It was on HBO
oh,
or
who
on
were
Max.
some of the folks they
There,
mentioned?
there was a utility worker. He worked for some, I think, the electric company in California, and he was driving on his truck and stretching his fingers. And he did this kind of a stretch for his fingers, and this is a white power sign. So someone driving by took a picture of the guy and posted it on Instagram and TikTok and whatever it was, Twitter, and he got fired. He couldn't get hired anywhere, and he became a pariah because they thought he was
Wow.
a supremacist. The guy was Latino, you know? But it just caught like brush fire. There's a lot of stories like that in this documentary, and that's a really deep rooted thing in society that bothers me. There's this whole kind of angry mob Salem witch trial thing going on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Comes from some visceral animalistic place deep inside of us that has been awakened through social media, and it's very disturbing.
Yeah. I've stood up for a lot of people against some of those psychopathic types too. So it's
So
yeah. How do you? I want to go to some new topics because you're
sure.
working and you're kicking butt. How do you develop a win-win attitude, and can you get ahead with a nice guys finish first type of thing? And how?
Can I get ahead with the nice guys finish first? I mean, I've always tried to be nice to people, treat people the way I'd want to be treated, and not be an asshole. There's times I probably maybe should have been more of an asshole. I don't know. Um,
Well,
I don't believe that nice guys finish last. I like to think of myself as a nice guy. I'm doing okay. So that's a myth. But you do have to stand your ground and be tough. And some people you might piss off and burn some bridges along the way.
yeah,
And you can't completely bend over backwards for everybody either. So it's a fine line. You have to,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, I've seen you work really hard and get me a gig, get me a gig. I'm going to do this gig, and also throw other folks gigs.
well, up until I joined Kansas, I was a full-time freelance musician in New York, just hustling like a madman to make ends meet, taking every gig under the sun. And it could be pretty cutthroat and it's stressful and it's a lot of hard work. Um, and it's competitive.
Yeah,
So that's why everyone is like that who is in that world, the freelance world.
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, do you know what all your talents are? If you've been freelancing all these years, what all talents you have? Because it seems like you can do many things.
Well, I'm mainly known as a violin player. Um,
Yeah,
but I'm a classically trained violinist, but I have made masters in jazz. I'm a rocker, so I play acoustic, traditional violin, and electric violin. That's my main thing. But I've also been playing guitar since I was 15, which is not that I'm not known as a guitar player. A lot of people didn't know I played guitar till I joined Kansas. Um,
yeah,
I play electric bass. I sing. I sing in my band and I sing in Kansas. Well, Kansas is my band, but I sing in Stratospheerius. Um,
both your bands,
yeah,
all your
I'm a
bands.
songwriter, composer. I do arrangements. I teach. I was doing everything that you know paid the bills,
Yep.
basically. And I also will say that it's a lot of fun. It's being a freelancer and having various sources of income as a musician. If you have a wide skill set and can do a variety of different things, you never know what's around the corner, what the next day, the next week will bring, and what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And it could be you could be playing with Bruce Springsteen one day, playing a wedding the next day, playing with a Turkish band in a bar the next day, or a country band. or it's really everything under the sun, and it's a blast
Yeah. Plus, you
most
have
of the time.
administrative skills.
Um, in quotes, I think I could be a lot better at that, but I try.
I think you okay, gotcha.
So,
Well, I'm kind
um,
of like 99, 100% of the gigs you've got, not me. You've gotten those gigs.
yeah, I'm always, it's like fishing. Let's see what I can catch today, you know. But also, one thing leads to another. If you do well, you're as good as your last gig. If you kick ass and treat every gig like it's Carnegie Hall,
Right.
there are no small gigs. You got to treat every gig like it's Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
Um, because every person is important that you play for is important. It's not just you're not have to. You can't have the mentality of this is some bullshit gig and tomorrow I'm playing for some important record executive. No, you have to treat every person like the important record executive.
That is such a great thing to say, everyone, because that you're building a following. You're building the world by doing that. You're giving back.
Well, the other thing is you're always playing for a global audience because anything you do, someone can whip out a phone and film you and put it on social media and you're worldwide. And if you half-ass something, everyone's going to see it. You can't control it. So
Yeah.
you have to always bring your A game to everything.
Right.
But
Or they'll talk about it.
what I was saying to that point, yeah, I was just one job leads to another. You
Yeah.
meet some musicians on a gig that you haven't played with before. They like what you do. They might have another project. They might call you months later for their project, and their project might have 10 other musicians that haven't heard you before, and one of them might have a project, and it just snowballs from there and branches out. And all of a sudden, you're getting called for 10 things for one night, and you can only do one. So you outsource the other nine to young, talented people that you have met or taught, and it kind of it's a ripple effect.
Cool. What is love?
Wow, that
Yeah,
really?
I know. Surprise.
Oh, just that.
I ask all my interviewers a couple of questions that deal with inclusion and hearing or not.
um, I'm a little flabbergasted. I have to think about that for a while.
Okay,
That might take up the rest of the interview.
I hear you. Well, there
Love
are.
is, go
Mhm.
ahead.
No, no, no. You're on a roll.
Love is everything. Love is everywhere. Love is loving yourself first and being able to share that love with other people through whatever it is you're passionate about
Hmm.
and having it affect other people in a good way and inspire people. Love is inspiration and sharing.
Cool.
How's that?
Uh, I like that. And what's a good way to fight back when, like you said earlier that, or recently towards the end of this interview, where sometimes you couldn't be so nice to folks. There's got to be a diplomatic way that you uh, get back to people to explain the situation.
I just say go fuck yourself.
Oh, okay.
Am
Um, don't videotape that
I
though.
allowed to curse on your podcast? I should have asked you before.
Yes, yes, we're on
Okay.
YouTube. We're on
Um,
YouTube and other places. I'll just put a
look,
warning.
there are. I always try my best to find common ground and get along with people. I'm not naming any names, but there are certain people that you've tried and try and try and try and try, and after a while, you're like, I've done everything I possibly can. This is just not meant to be. This relationship is not meant to be. That's okay.
Right.
Just part ways.
Yeah. And sometimes
Change.
you.
You're not going to change or win over everybody. That's it.
Yeah, I know. I know. And at the end of the day, like they're not gonna. They're blowing a lot of opportunities. So I get it. I get it.
We all are. We all have people. I think I know who you may be thinking about. I have people.
A couple of folks.
So that's life, man.
Yeah. Yeah. You just wish for the best and you hope, and that's life.
I think some people in their minds think, "Oh, I'm such a great guy that nobody can possibly dislike me, and I'm just doing something wrong here," you know, and
Yeah.
with this person, and that maybe they'll see the light and
Yeah.
come around, and there's that faint hope that they will.
Yeah.
But I've found that some people even do, but some people never do, and
I
they have to
know.
work through their own shit.
Yeah. And that's where we find our tribe of good people. So, anything you want to tell us about the album, which is due, it's called Impostor, and it's due October 11th on 7D Media, which
Yep.
is online and in the stores,
Yeah,
basically.
it's going to be available on my website, joedeviolin.com, 7D Media's website, which is 7, the letter D, media.com. Um, my band, stratosband.com, Stratos band.com. That's Stratospheerius. You'll find it on Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon and, Tidal, all those places. And we are going to print CDs. We had to reprint them because there were some mistakes, but they will be available for those who want physical product still. And we appreciate people that are still willing to pay for music. Thank you.
Thank
Supporting.
you.
Thank you for supporting music. Um, but yeah, this album was 6 years in the making, and some of the songs we released as singles in 2019 and 2020 and 2021, and people are going to say, why are you re-releasing these songs and why did you wait so long to finish the album? And the answer is we always intended to finish the album earlier, but life got in the way. um, and we were simultaneously working on a double live album that we were editing, and then I joined Kansas, and that ate up 2 years of my life, and I got really busy. Um, and things just kept going. And there's a lot of this album people have not heard, and the songs that they have heard have been remastered. And when you hear it all as one cohesive album, it really packs a punch. I think it's a very powerful um, album of music, and we're very proud of it and can't wait for people to hear it.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll do my best to get the word out for sure. I'm a fan, and it's always been a pleasure to work with you and listen to your music because it's like a lot of music that I've never heard before, and like a lot of music that I have heard before. I like how your mind works.
well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you because you're the kind of person that'll crawl through the trenches for her artists. You're there for the long haul. You're not just doing a job.
No.
And there's
Well,
you're a very rare person because I've been in the music business for a long, long time, and there are very few people like that with that kind of attitude.
oh God. Well, thank you. Well, you're also, oh my gosh, it's the Love Love Fest. So
Yeah,
this is
it,
love,
it totally
love.
is, man. This is love right here. So
Yeah,
I appreciate you. You're one of the greatest people in my life. So thank you for
you
being.
too. Thank you. And with that, Lydia, oops. No, how do I make the interview stop? Stop recording. Ah,
You just
thank
press.
you everybody for listening and watching. This has been Joe Deninzon and Stratospheerius, badass electric violinist, singer, composer. Thank you. And Leighton signing off.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, everybody. Rock and roll.